Hi, in this video, I'll be teaching the new topic which is called stress. Now, according to Serafino, it's the condition that results when a person's environment lead them to perceive a discrepancy or difference between the demands of a situation and the resources of the person's biological and psychological or social system. So basically, when the demands of life is too much that our body cannot handle. So stress happens when we feel that we are not in control of the things that are happening in our life. So let's say too much work, or losing or breaking things that you like, or being scolded or being judged. And so if all of this is happening all at the same time, or just one of them happening actually, it can have many triggers and physiological responses. Okay, now so in our syllabus, the first subtopic we'll be looking at sources of stress, which is divided into two: the physiology or the biology of stress. So what is it that's happening in our body when we are feeling stress, and how does it affect our health, as well as causes of stress. So now, stress involves an interaction of cognitive, so our mind, and physiological factors. So basically, it's how we process such information, and how our body reacts to it. Okay, now when we're stressed, stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol play a major role. So this stress hormones, it will lead to a few physiological reaction. So when you're stressed, stress hormone is released, so your breathing rate increases, heart rate increases, blood sugar level increases, blood pressure increases, and intestinal muscles relax. So what happens when your intestinal muscles relax? That's your tummy, by the way. So we don't really digest things. Okay, so that indigestion occurs. Now, so what happens is when we're stressed, okay, when we're relaxed, actually, this is the condition of our body. Pupils are contracted, uh, stimulates salivation, contracts bronchi, slows heartbeat, stimulates gallbladder, contracts gallbladder. So once we're stressed, our sympathetic division of autonomic nervous system is activated. So it leads to this. Okay, and I'm not sure whether this one, when this one is activated, it releases cortisol, or the fact that the cortisol is released, therefore this one is activated. I'm not sure yet. I will get back to you. Okay. Now, here's a interesting fact for you. Now, some people, I don't know about you, when they're stressed, they actually gain weight. Okay, for long-term stress, they actually gain weight. Why? All because of cortisol. Because when there's a high level of cortisol in your body, somehow your brain is telling you to increase food intake. There's a high fat deposition, and the muscle is not taking up any glucose. Well, not taking up, or just taking less of glucose in your muscle. So what happens is it stays in your body. Your muscle does not absorb it, uptake it. Okay, that's why some people, they gain weight when they're stressed. Now, here's one thing that you need to know about in the syllabus, which is called general adaptation syndrome. It's the physiological reaction, our body's reaction and adaptation to stress in order to restore homeostasis. Now, what is homeostasis? So basically, it's the control of internal conditions, be it temperature, specific blood condition. Now, when we're in homeostasis, our body temperature is balanced, or a normal level, so which is around 36 to 37. Blood pressure is normal, which is around 120 over 80. Blood glucose level is normal. Okay, so that's homeostasis. Now again, what happens when we're stressed? Let's go back to this. All of this will disrupt homeostasis. Okay, so the first one, so here, homeostasis. So basically, body temperature, fluid balance, blood sugar is balanced. Okay, now again, when we're stressed, our body is no longer in homeostasis because of this thing. Okay, So general adaptation syndrome is trying to restore it back to homeostasis. So when we are stressed, our body goes through three processes. Okay, one is alarm reaction, such as the fight or flight response, which mobilizes the body resources and increase physiological arousal. Second stage is resistant. An attempt is made to counteract the earlier effects and reduce the highest state of arousal. Third one is exhaustion. If the high levels of arousals are prolonged, eventually some part of the physiological system will break down. Okay? So the first stage, alarm stage, the stressor. So what is it? Whatever it is that's making you stress, upsets homeostasis. Okay, so your autonomic nervous system is activated. Okay, so after we go through that, we go through resistance stage. So our body tries to fight back by adjusting to the stress, and if this prolongs, our body becomes exhausted. So no rest, overtraining, injury, lack of adaptation. Okay, so first stage, alarm. Second stage, resistance. We try to cope, try to adapt. Our body sometimes can't keep up forever, so and our resources gradually depleted, so that goes to exhaustion. Okay, now this is an example. So let's say stressor is the fact that you failed a test, so you try to cope, you try to resist it. This is the resistance stage, but it can go to exhaustion. Okay, you become sick because your body tried so much to adapt to it. Okay, now another thing that's in this first subtopic is causes of stress, which in this syllabus we're looking at three: work, there's also life events, as well as personality. So the first one is work. Now, according to sorry, in 2001, the Higher Education Funding Council of England conducted 3 years of study. Okay, and they found that these are the main reasons why people are stressed due to work: the long hours, the job security, especially if you're in the private companies, work relationships with the bosses, access to resources, communication. This is the main factors. Okay, that why people are stressed at work. Now, a study that you need to know in the syllabus is Chandola et al. Chandola et al. Wanted to see the association between stress and coronary heart disease. Is it more, can stress lead to coronary heart disease? Okay, so Chandola had 3 questions. Is the accumulation of work stress associated with higher chances of developing coronary heart disease? Is this association stronger among the working age population? And does it work directly through our neuroendocrine mechanism, or is it because you're stressed, you tend to develop behaviors that are not healthy, such as smoking, not eating? Okay, so that's why, whether it's because of directly or indirectly through behavioral risk factors. Okay, now Chandola didn't need to conduct didn't need to find participants. All they needed was to analyze the data collected from Whitehall study. So Whitehall did the study, okay, in year 1985, and it's a longitudinal study. I think it's still going on. Okay, so where they collect self-report questionnaires and clinical data of participants in the working age. Okay, so Chandola wanted to know this using data from Whitehall study. Okay, so the first question was, is the accumulation of work stress associated with higher chances of developing coronary heart disease? According to this study, when they looked at the data, what they found was workers who report more work stress more often had an increased risk of heart disease, obesity, and cardiovascular. So from the questionnaire, those who reported that they are more oftenly stressed out due to work. Okay, and when we looked at their clinical data about increased risk of heart disease, obesity, and cardiovascular, there was an association. So those who report more work stress had a higher increased risk of heart disease, obesity, and cardiovascular risk. Now, the second question was, is it stronger among the working age population? Yes, among participants under 50, so those who are working still. Okay, so this association is higher for working age population. Now here, the third question, does work stress affect coronary heart disease directly through neuroendocrine mechanisms, so due to stress hormones, or indirectly through behavioral risk factors? Now let's recall back. How can work stress affect coronary heart disease directly through neuroendocrine mechanism? Remember the fact that there's a higher cortisol when you're stressed. So when there's higher cortisol level, your heart is working more often. What is it again? Sorry. Increased heartbeat. Sorry, here. Blood pressure arises. Pupil dilate. Breathing rate increases. So this can lead to coronary heart disease, or is it because when you're stressed, you tend to do low physical activity, poor diet, lower heart variability? That's why you have an increased risk of getting coronary heart disease. So what they found was around 32% of those who had work stress and had coronary heart disease was due to the fact that they had poor health behaviors such as low physical activity, poor diet, and lower heart variability. So the reason why they had a higher risk of coronary heart disease was not because of stress directly, but because of the fact that they did unhealthy behaviors. That's why they had a chance of getting coronary heart disease. Okay, so only 32%, which means the rest of the time it was mostly due to neuroendocrine mechanism. Okay, the fact that work stress was associated with a higher morning rise in cortisol. Okay, so let's have a look back at the three questions. Is the accumulation of work stress associated with higher chances of developing coronary heart disease? Yes. Those with higher work stress had a higher risk for developing coronary heart disease. Is it stronger among the working age population? Yes. Among the younger working age population. And then, does work stress affect coronary heart disease directly through neuroendocrine mechanisms or indirectly through behavioral risk factors? So only 32% of those who had coronary heart disease due to work stress was because they developed unhealthy behaviors. So only indirectly through behavioral risk factors, not because of the fact that the cortisol played a major role. Okay. Now, second one, causes of stress, life events. Now, Holmes and Rahe devised the social readjustment rating scale to examine the life events and experiences that cause stress, such as death of spouse. Okay. Now, in the study, they looked at 394 participants who are suffering or had suffered from extreme stress, and by looking at their medical case histories and interviews. From these interviews, from looking at their medical case history, Holmes and Rahe were able to rank 43 life events on their scales. So basically, these are some of the life events that can cause stress. Okay, and they were able to rank it. So which one was more what is it called? Which one is which life event can cause the highest level of stress? So obviously, number one is death of spouse, so your wife or your husband. Second one is divorce. And then let's see which one is related to you. Number 5, actually, death of a close family member. Personal injury or illness, it's actually quite high. It can actually cause stress, high stress level. Okay, so you can have a look at this soon online. Okay, it's called SRRS, Social Readjustment Rating Scale. So see, these are some of the events that can cause stress. Yes, some of the life events. Okay, here, final one, personality. Okay, Friedman and Rosenman outline a type A personality and type B. I'm sure you've heard of this. Type A are said to be aggressive, assertive, competitive, time conscious, and so are more likely to suffer physical and mental illnesses. So if you compare type A, competitive, time urgent, hostile, and aggressive, type B, relax, one thing at a time, and express feelings. Now, when you look at these two, which one do you think is more susceptible to getting stressed? Yes, type A. Okay, type A. Type A is used for competitive, hard-driving, impatient, verbally aggressive, and anger-prone people. Type B refers to easygoing, relaxed people. So type A personalities are more likely to develop coronary heart disease, so they are more likely to get stressed up. Okay. Okay, so this is a simple illustration between the difference between type A and type B. Type A, they will actually want to overcome challenges. Type B, they're really easygoing. Okay. Now, to investigate this, Friedman and Rosenhan did a study on 3,200 Californian men, okay, using structured interviews. Okay, and these 3,200 men were divided into whether they were type A, type X, or type B. Type X is a balance of type A and type B. Okay, they categorized this behavior as a direct response when the participants were constantly interrupted in the interview. This is how they categorized them, by seeing how they respond. From their responses, we can see whether they're type A, type X, or type B. Okay. Now, looking at this, we can already evaluate the study. Okay, the fact that they only use men. Now, the sample was followed up for up to 8.5 years to assess their lifestyle and health outcomes. So this is a longitudinal study. Again, we can evaluate that. Now, the researchers found that more than twice as many type A people as type B people develop coronary heart disease. So there were a lot of type A people who develop coronary heart disease, double than those with type B personality. When the figures were adjusted for smoking lifestyle, it still emerged that type A people were nearly twice as likely to develop heart disease as type B people. So there's nothing to do with, they have ruled out their behavioral factors. So it's not they have ruled that out, it's still down to personality, and they found that type A was more likely to coronary heart disease. Okay. 8 years later, 257 participants had developed coronary heart disease. By the end of the study, 70% of the men who had developed coronary heart disease were type A personalities. Okay, and that's it. That is the first topic of stress, which is sources of stress. Now, thank